I'm not worried at all. I just had a great meeting with the president at the White House, and he's in good spirits. We talked about the upcoming races, the midterm elections, and we're very bullish on it.
But why is the American public souring on his policies?
Listen, these are presidential terms or roller coasters sometimes. There's been a little tumult in the markets with the tariff policy and all of that, but I think all this is settling out.
That was House Speaker Mike Johnson conceding that things are a little crazy right now, a roller coaster, if you will. And from all of the back and forth happening with the economy and with this administration's policies, both foreign and domestic, that is saying the absolute least. When CNN reporter Manu Raju asked the speaker about Trump's rising disapproval rates, Johnson said neither he nor the president are too worried about it. The short-term pain for the long-term gain. And I guess this is Trump's short-term pain, the American public falling out of love with him. As long as it's just temporary, he doesn't seem to mind.
The American public knows exactly what's going on, and that's why they're soundly rejecting this administration. He has the lowest approval rating of any president of the last 70 years for the first 100 days. His stock market for the first 100 days is the lowest since Nixon. Unprecedented low foreign policy approval rating and economic approval rating. The American public is smart enough to know that their shelves, if they're not already empty, are going to be empty because of tariffs. 69% say he's not focused enough on lowering prices. 62% focus too much on tariffs. 72% think his policies will cause a recession. 64% disapprove of how he's handling inflation. He continues to beat a drum that is making the absolute worst economic music I have ever heard in my entire life.
But as with any kind of bad press, it'll all just eventually blow over, right? The news cycle will cycle through, people's short-term memories will kick in, and by that point, accountability, never heard of him. And it's not like this is an unspoken strategy or anything like that. This is their modus operandi. Here is what Newt Gingrich recently told Not Us reporter Jasmine Wright regarding the chaos surrounding this administration and the rollout of its policies. He said that's one of the lessons they've learned, that you just keep moving forward. The news media can't cover it very long. The country doesn't care. Never mind all the protests across the country, never mind the poll numbers, never mind the economy. None of it matters to them, and you almost can't blame them for thinking that, because they so often get away with whatever it is that they're trying to get away with. Even if one or two of them go down in the process, their overall goals have so much momentum behind them that it's hard to stall, let alone stop them from achieving those goals, even with mass demonstrated dissent from the people. The only thing that matters to them is whether or not they can win an election in November, but even then, we all know how the American public works. Things can be insane all the way up to October, but at the polls, October is the only month that matters. Short-term memories for real. Why is there always an October surprise, and why does it work so reliably well to sway polling and election results? This country is far too reactive, and not to be dramatic, but our inability to perceive big pictures is going to be our own downfall. It's funny, for all of this talk of short-term pain, Americans are far more willing to endure that short-term pain within the first 100 days of an administration than they are in the 100 days leading up to an election. By the time the next election comes around, this will all be a distant memory to so many Trump and Republican voters. But just for fun, let's look at those poll numbers in question. From the latest Washington Post /ABC News /Ipsos poll, Trump's overall approval rating is sitting at just 39% currently, down from 45% in February, which was already alarmingly low. Among registered voters, however, the decline in approval is even more pronounced, with polls showing net negative 3 points in February compared to net negative 13 points in April, a 10-point decline in approval. For his first 100 days in office, Trump has managed to break his own previously held record of having the lowest approval rating compared to any other president since polling began. Also notable, among white people without a college degree, a group that makes up a significant portion of Trump voters, his approval has declined by 10 points. Still, overall, his base seems to be holding out hope that he does actually know what he's doing, and that ultimately his policies will result in a stronger American economy and a safer place for them to live. Time will tell, but while this might feel encouraging, I caution you, it may be not as encouraging as it seems. Trump had to do a lot just to see these kind of numbers. It shouldn't have taken so much, in my opinion, for people to start vocalizing their disapproval of him. But polls are fickle. That's why they do them so often, because they change often. Yes, you can and should analyze like the overall trends, but even the best polling with the best efforts to be representative of a populace can fall short of being truly representative. Furthermore, his base, while he has seen disapproval within that base, for the most part, it remains strong and it remains loyal to him. Something else to keep in mind, disapproving of the current administration doesn't necessarily mean that people are ready to ditch Trump or the Republican Party altogether. One last thing I want to point out, polling shows that 37% of Americans trust Trump to fix the problems in this country, which doesn't sound like that much, but only 30% trust Democrats to do so. Another 30% don't trust either, and overall, more Americans perceive that Democrats are more out of touch with the American people than Trump is, which is saying something. If ever there was a time for the Democrats to get off their own high horses and actually listen to the people, now is that time. We are begging Democrats to take a hint. We're not even being subtle about our grievances here. It should be embarrassing for them that they are performing this badly against Trump and this administration. So how is Trump dealing with all of this? He is not bothered because, as always, it's just fake news.
Think of that. This is all done in 100 days. But when you watch the fake news, you see fake polls. Again, they poll more Democrats than Republicans. Democrats aren't going to say, I'm going to vote for Trump. And we still got 45, 44%. But on the legitimate polls, I think we're in the 60s. I think we're in the 60s or 70s or something.
Fox News and other right-wing outlets are also busy explaining away the poll numbers, but the only sort of legitimate explanation they've been able to come up with is that Trump's term can't be summed up in 100 days. And yeah, it is sort of an arbitrary benchmark that we put a lot of stock into. But the way it makes sense to me is like when a server drops off your food and then lets you take a bite and then checks back in 5 minutes later to make sure you're good. That's what this feels like. But they keep saying it'll be short-term pain for long-term gains, and they keep pushing that message hard right now so that their most diehard supporters can just not worry about what's going on, even as they see their retirement funds dwindling and their investments withering away. If they can just convince you to accept this short-term pain, however short-term they're talking, then people will just weather the storm, which they'll have to do on their own, of course, because the administration certainly is not doing anything to help them do so. It's not like Doge or Trump are giving Americans any sort of lifelines to help them through this painful period. And if you're the one inflicting pain on the people you're governing or leading, you would think that before you fling the whole country into chaos, you would have some kind of plan to support the people who will be the most affected. You'd think that they'd be a little bit more calculated and deliberate in their rollout of their plan to minimize the negative effects for their people as much as possible. And you'd think that they'd at least have some kind of support program for all of the people that Doge just laid off, but no, nothing. It's completely irresponsible. It's bad leadership for one, but it's also very dismissive and very disrespectful of the American people. And yet somehow Trump supporters will tell themselves that he definitely knows what he's doing and that it will all be worth it in the end. And Trump's really hoping it will be. He's really hoping that his legacy will end up in a good place after all of this, and that history will just forget all about the way he treated his constituents and the way he took the dictator's handbook and used it as his presidential playbook from the very start. Like any narcissist, he is worried about himself, his own image, the way he's going to be remembered, above all else, above all the millions or even billions of lives that he is affecting with his ill-advised and poorly planned machinations. All Trump cares about is himself. But here we are on this roller coaster that most of us never wanted to be on in the first place. But that's not how democracy works. We're either all on the roller coaster together or none of us are on it at all. There is no opt-out option anymore. Unless we all figure out a way to get off this thing together, we're doing this. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you.